All righty. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Badboyz of Podcasting. I'm DJ Impact, and I got a couple of the bad boys here with me. And it's good to see you, Sis City Steve and Matt Michaels. We're going to get right into our 3 count. And let me just start off just by reading a bunch of headlines, and then you guys just tell me what you think. And all these are just titles that are all coming from our regular, dirt sheet sites or just different publishers or whatever the case may be. So here it is. This is our first count for tonight. These are just titles here. Something is up. Wrestling legend comments on rumors. Buying or selling the juiciest WWE and AEW rumors. Vince McMahon selling WWE to NBC. Is Vince McMahon selling WWE? Vince McMahon is preparing to sell WWE. CM Punk sends a tweet suggesting that WWE might be selling Vince. Will Vince McMahon really sell WWE? Is WWE really prepping up to sell the company? It goes on and on. WWE firing everyone to sell the company. All right. That was what all that's been going on for the past, since it came out that they released some of the top WWE superstars. And I guess you could say Braun Strowman is a top superstar, Matt. You're giving me that look like top. I'm just going to come out and ask you guys, how crazy is this idea? Is WWE looking to sell the company? And if that's just something that's just ridiculous, despite the fact that 20 people all want to jump on that same thing, what do you think is actually going on here, being that you've now have experienced another bunch of layoff? And this time, these names were some pretty, some known names that been with the company for a while, that some of the other names we've had before, you might not be too familiar with them because maybe they were from NXT or from elsewhere. But you guys tell me, what do you think when you see all these headlines? Why are we jumping to the idea is WWE selling?
Because that's what's going to happen.
There you go. Topic one, done. That's the second one.
No, I mean, realistically, you have to look at it. How long have we been saying on this show that WWE is priming everything in order to sell? Mm-hmm. It's obvious at this point. I think that something that really stood out to me was that I guess that it's come to light that they up until the day before or 2 days before the actual cut occurred, that they were all systems go on Aleister Black beginning a feud with Big E. They obviously had the interaction. They shot numerous vignettes. So realistically, his release, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but kind of did. If you look at it, they were priming up this storyline. And what that screams to me is that somebody within whatever organization is looking to buy WWE, they made the call of, hey, we don't want this guy as part of the package. Get rid of him. So
wow.
that is legitimately what I think. I mean, realistically, if you're somebody like a Disney or somebody of that nature, then that could have been easily one of the conditions as to, hey, we're on board to make this purchase, but this person, because of whatever, either storyline or because it could be a litany of things with Aleister Black, but they obviously had invested a lot of time and a lot of resources into a storyline that will never see the light of day. Aleister Black even made mention that his entrance music that they designed and created new entrance music for him to use that will never see the light of day now. So, and Alistair did mention that it was, according to him, the favorite, like his favorite song that he would have ever entered the ring to. So yeah, I there has to be something bigger at play. Has to be.
So before I go over to you, Matt, just to kind of read, I mean, John from the our messages here says one thing to consider: whoever the potential buyer possible is, maybe the reason behind some of the releases are to line up with certain images that the company wants represented. So he agreed with Steve, like Ruby and Alistair being all tatted up. That's not a Disney image they want to portray. He said, but then again, the theme, it's interesting all around. Let me go with you, Matt. What do you think about this whole thing?
All right. So let's see. We got two possibilities, big possibilities. We got Disney and NBC. All right. Okay. Those are your two, most practical potential buyers. NBC, of course, has the library now. And Disney, of course, is a conglomerate that buys other companies. All right. So when you look at Disney first, Disney basically, we kind of look at it like this. All right. So you got a huge thing here with Disney, and that's kind of their sliding, like Star Wars and Marvel and the Muppets, all these independent companies, and Fox, right? And one of the things that they do is when they purchase a company like that, they allow them to still be run as an independent entity, right? Kathleen Kennedy still manages, Lucasfilms like she would have before the sale. Okay. Mm-hmm. Disney really doesn't interfere in that sense as much as they, give the platforms for things to, be distributed, be licensed, and, that would fit under the umbrella because you would have the ability to keep Stephanie and Hunter and whoever else in place.
Yeah.
And then you have NBC. So kind of have then NBC is kind of a different, kind of arc on the angle where you have them already having the library, right? So that's huge. Now that they have Peacock, they can then also kind of use that platform as the network platform. They can do the live, pay-per-views. They're also the owners of USA. Okay, so you have a very realistic sense that NBC could be the potential buyer as well. And with that, when you look at what they've done with these releases, I don't think it's image. I think that when you look at what you're trying to do, you're not, the company is not telling you cut these guys because we don't want them in the image of this blah, blah, blah. What's going on is the new three-headed monster that is the CEOs essentially of the company, the operating officer, and these are the guys who are now calling the shots. They're getting it ready for sale. So they're looking at the contracts that they have and what worth do these contracts have. The creative, don't forget, these guys aren't really touching creative. So let's say Vince McMahon didn't want to, get rid of Braun Strowman. I don't think it was Vince's decision. I think it was them coming and saying, hey, these are the numbers we need to, scratch off. And you're going to still see more people probably get released because they are building to try to sell the company. Now, remember, you kind of had here, which was big, is you had the UFC. Okay. Now, remember, the UFC, their big thing is, they basically sold the UFC for, I think it was like $3 billion, I believe. So, they've been wanting to basically capitalize on that and, make a sale that was essentially bigger than UFC. And then, you got to think also here that, basically you have Vince preparing his family, right? So essentially what you're looking at is you're seeing, something that's happening that is causing them the preparation for the company's sale, and in the end, what you hope is basically you hope to take that, and then you hope that there's just kind of like a motion to kind of like get things going and get things off the ground, and then eventually the company will just
explode.
Yeah. And that will make a lot of profit, a lot of people rich.
Oh God, yeah. Always leave it to you, Matt Michaels. Always leave it to you. Hey, well, you know what? Okay. One thing Chris did say is, I think it would be interesting if Vince sold WWE, but yet somehow found a way to retain all the ownership rights and libraries to WCW, ECW, AWA, etc.
Okay, so they sold the library.
Oh, they did. Okay.
See, the Peacocks, that was literally because it was, I think, what, $1 billion?
Yeah, it was $1 billion. Yeah.
That was the whole. So that's why the theory would make sense that if they hook up with NBC already owns the library. So
yeah,
and so what makes this complicated? This idea of them selling to Disney, the complication would be is that NBC owns the catalog. So now anything that would get produced under Disney, then you would have it would be a mess. So NBC would have to sell basically that catalog to Disney, so then the Disney could use Disney Plus to have a platform for it. Plus, so Disney's also, parent company of ESPN. So would they air pay-per-views on ESPN? Would be on Disney Plus. Disney Plus isn't hooked up for live streaming. I really doubt it's Disney.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for that. We'll go right into our second count, which is from BleacherReport.com. It's titled WWE Makes It Harder to Get Emotionally Invested in Wrestlers. So I'm just going to read a little bit of what he wrote here. He was just saying that WWE just made big problems quite a bit worse with the shocking releases of big names like Braun Strowman and Aleister Black. WWE amplified an issue that has been plaguing its weak programming for a long time, and there's little reason for fans to get invested in characters and storyline. And this was already a big issue simply because WWE dropped storylines left and right. Likewise, the company's lack of creativity when booking stars and entire division often doesn't lead to satisfying payoffs, and that's when a plan gets followed through at it all. So then he starts to go a little bit into Braun Strowman, some of the storylines with him, and then also with Aleister Black. And then as I drop all the way down to towards the end, he goes, and that's the other problem here. Fans already know how this goes. The cuts were made for supposed budgetary reasons. Yet fans know WWE will turn right around and spend big the next time a Lesnar or Goldberg wants to come back around the middle of the summer during WrestleMania season. So even worse than the fear of investing in superstars because they could be cut from the roster, fans have to worry that if it will happen just so WWE can bring in temporary acts, they might not have an interest in seeing in the first place. And it's an unfortunate place for everyone to reside. So it was bad enough when Drew McIntyre got mishandled around Mania after a superb year-long run, making fans tired of him. And now there's the threat of not only seeing a talent misused, but outright let go. And that all makes it hard for fans to get too attached to the performers, both the characters and the real person alike. And in the wrestling business, that's the opposite of what a company should be striving for on a daily basis. All right. Matt Michaels, Sin City Steve, pretty much saying, look, man, you know, we're getting invested into these characters. And before you know it, I mean, Aleister Black, they were getting, you know, they had promos running, you know, he actually came out the one day. You're like, okay, here we go. Let's get going. We were big fans. And then plop, that happens. Just a writer. I know a lot of times you guys shit on writers every week and you might even want to shit on him. But do you think he has a point here that, you know, this whole move that has happened does make it tough to get invested in these wrestlers? Sin City?
Definitely. I think that this is just the latest event in a string of events that just go on to show that Vince has learned, you know, no one competitor is bigger than the brand. And that's something that he's pushed for. You know, obviously Hogan could do whatever he wanted. And I think that although they had a period of extreme growth in the 80s with Hogan as the face of the company, since that point and since Austin came and went and The Rock came and went, Vince now knows that, and everybody within WWE's corporate structure, they have to realize that anything can happen, things can change on a moment's notice. So at the end of the day, they're not building Aleister Black fans. They're not building Roman Reigns fans. They're building WWE fans. And the parts that make up WWE are interchangeable. That's just how it is. And this writer actually hit the nail directly on the head. We all know that we're going to have the litany of part-timers come back for WrestleMania. They do that shit every year, it seems like. And you know, SummerSlam right around the corner. A big rumor is that John Cena is going to be coming back. So you know, they're gonna spend on these names, but this crop of, you know, people that they should be building the company around, we're not really seeing that much at all. Yeah. And I think that as I had mentioned, it's more of a thing of not necessarily building up names and building up stars, but building up the brand and the company, and then being able to swap those names and those stars as needed.
Yeah, Matt Michaels, John just happened to write. He says, it's safe to say we were all emotionally invested in Roman Reigns since he's returned at SummerSlam. Then he said, I was personally ready to fly to Tampa and burn down the stadium when Randy Orton beat The Fiend at WrestleMania. That's emotional investment right there. And then Sean also added, I think it's easy to get emotionally involved in certain wrestlers, but extremely hard to get emotionally invested into an entire WWE show, unless it's Rumble, Mania, or SummerSlam. So over to you, Matt. What's your take on this? Is the writer have somewhat of a point here? It's making it very tough to be emotionally invested in these wrestlers when you have these type of let goes happening.
No, I think the author is full of shit on this one.
Interesting. Okay.
The reason being is that you could say that you're invested in a particular wrestler. Okay. Aleister Black. You guys are saying Aleister Black. I personally just don't think he has it. All right. I don't think he has it.
Okay.
So I've never emotionally invested in him. But I enjoyed what they did with him in NXT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I enjoyed that wasn't because I was invested in Aleister Black. It's because the booking team and the writing team did a very good job.
Okay.
That's the problem. The problem is that a lot of times what we're seeing is we want to associate in the WWE the fact that they don't use guys a certain way. And the truth of the matter is that the guys you should be invested in are the guys that you would bring back for big events. Brock Lesnar, John Cena, right? You're invested in The Undertaker. The Undertaker, why the fuck did he even come back for, let's say, the last 5 years? All he was doing is, pretty much one-offs or two-offs in a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're actually invested into that character no matter how shitty the storyline is. Okay? But with a guy like Braun Strowman, let me ask you, what's your favorite Braun Strowman match, guys? That's it. So you're not invested because why? Why would I invest in this guy? Because the stories haven't been there. And there's also a ceiling for a guy that big, right? Lana. Am I invested in Lana? No. Like, I'm not sitting there going, oh my God. Now, if you're talking Charlotte Flair, oh yeah, because she's a top player. So there's only so many spots at top, and we always get, wrestling fans forget that Andrade, he might have been good in NXT. They gave him a good thing to deal with. But on the bigger roster and the bigger picture, Andrade is not better than Seth Rollins. Andrade is not better than Roman Reigns. Andrade is not better than AJ Styles. Look at the top tier of guys. Andrade is not better than Kofi Kingston. And Kofi is not used necessarily in the best way. But I'll tell you right now, you got invested in Kofi Kingston, and that's why he got the title. So they can also pick up on, hey, fans are behind this. We can go with that. Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was a guy who people invested in, and they went with it. But you can't, as a company, go with the investing of the fans on every single wrestler. They have to have some kind of it factor, and that's a fair thing. I'll tell you right now, when you look at AEW, when you look at Ring of Honor, when you look at Impact, when you look at any wrestling company, most likely the people you're invested in are the top 5 to 10 people, because those people are constantly getting good storylines. And that's really what makes things run, is the actual storylines for the characters. And you can take a guy like Jericho and you can basically put him in any company on this planet and you'll immediately invest in him. If you've never seen him before, something will be calling you. And that is because he's got it. He's got it. And that's what it comes down to. And I think a lot of these cuts, I mean, you look at some of the names and you go, eh.
Why Ruby Riott instead of Liv Morgan?
Well, you have to look that what we don't know is what the contracts are.
Okay.
Simple as that. Simple as that. And also, if you think about it, again, well, why Lana and not Naomi? We can, but it's apples and oranges. Now, here's the other thing too. Liv Morgan, we don't know necessarily what the WWE is also planning in investing into them, meaning that are there other things that they can make money with that person on the side?
Yeah.
But again, to me, Ruby Riott or Liv Morgan, interchangeable. You let either one of them go, I mean, is anyone really crying about that? No, not really. So,
Okay.
here's an example. You have Shotzi and Ember, right?
Yeah.
So, are you emotionally invested in both of them? I
Yeah.
mean, I think that most people, myself included, are a little more invested in Shotzi. So if Shotzi got let go, then it'd be like, whoa, that's kind of weird, but Ember's still with them. Okay. And again, we don't know the contract details necessarily. We don't know how much time's left on the contract as well. And so I think it's just, again, when you look at certain things, there might be a little more you're attached to because it's your personal taste as a fan. But in the end, it's kind of, at a certain level, they're interchangeable parts.
Yeah.
Which goes around what Steve's saying. And that is, you're looking at the organization as a company more so than, listen, I hate, fans don't want to hear this, but the truth of the matter is that if you stop watching whatever company it is, or if you die, guess what? Someone will be there to replace your fandom. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Sin City, did you want to add anything else, or I'm just going to go to the next? I just want to make sure you. Okay.
No, we're golden.
No doubt. All right. Let's get right over to our third count. And this was from WrestlingNews.co. It is titled WWE SummerSlam will be a shorter show because of Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence fight. So let me read here what it says. He says, don't expect this year's WWE SummerSlam pay-per-view to be a marathon show on August 21st. Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestler Observer Radio that WWE was asked to go off the air in time so that fans that want to get to the Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence Jr. fight can get there in time. The boxing pay-per-view will air at the same time as SummerSlam, but the main event is not expected to start until sometime around midnight. SummerSlam is listed as starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which means that they will run approximately 3 hours for the main card. And WWE typically starts their shows at 7 p.m. Eastern time. There's no word yet on why this show is starting later than usual. However, one has to assume that WWE will be able to put some matches on the kickoff show. Now, Meltzer was also noted that there were some headaches for WWE before they locked in the Allegiant Stadium. At one point, the plan was to run on Sunday, but the stadium asked them to run the show on Saturday night. There was also talk of not running the show at all in Las Vegas because of the Pacquiao fight. At this point, it looks like the main card for SummerSlam will run from 8 p.m. Eastern to just around 11 p.m., or perhaps slightly longer than that. And in the conclusion, it says it's expected that there would be somewhere around 60,000 to 70,000 fans in attendance for SummerSlam, and John Cena versus Roman Reigns is rumored the main event. The idea is that since they couldn't get a full house at WrestleMania, that they would do a WrestleMania caliber show with SummerSlam in the stadium. All right, guys, we finally know it came out this weekend that WWE finally has locked down the Allegiant Stadium, which is very exciting for our town. A lot's going to be going on, so please keep it locked. If you don't follow us, start following us on our social media. There's also our website too, VegasBadBoys.com. A lot of things going to be happening now that it's official, and we want you guys to be a part of it and know, what's going on. But with that, wow, this is just amazing. Now we know this is coming from Dave Meltzer, one of our bad boys termed it Steve Meltzer, and so that probably would go to you, Sin City there. And shout out to Simon Street. He's not able to be with us, taking care of some personal issues. Take care of that, man. We got you over here. This story, though, can you believe? I mean, so it just makes you wonder. Okay, you got two big events. Apparently, you got the boxing organization saying we want this day. Then you had WWE saying we want this day. Then you got the boxing organization saying we want this time. And then you got WWE saying we want this time. Everything seems to be happening, all that, which is, great for the town, but apparently seem like it's going to be just an issue of just trying to get people who maybe like both sports to be able to participate in both of this. Just imagine you're being asked now that you're gonna, to end your show earlier because apparently some fans. By the way, I've been to many wrestling shows here, and I know the cost of tickets. They can be expensive, but most stadium shows you can find a reasonably good seat for $100 or whatever the case may be.
They actually, in the announcement,
okay,
the ticket price starts at $25 for SummerSlam.
Okay, so you have that. I'm just really wondering. I mean, so at some point, the fan who picked up the $25 ticket will need to get out of the Allegiant Stadium so that he can make it over to the Manny Pacquiao fight that I'm sure starts at about $500. I'm just guessing because most boxing matches are pretty expensive. They got to get over there so they can make the show. This to me just sounds crazy. And of course, I guess WWE is agreeing with this. Again, this comes from Dave Meltzer. I don't know. I'm going to start with you, Matt Michaels. You tell me, what do you think about this whole story? Is SummerSlam really not going to go that long because we have another big, important boxing match happening around the same time in Vegas? What's your take on this?
So the first thing that sticks out to me is, amazingly, our memories are really fucking short. They always used to start the shows at 5 p.m. West Coast time and 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Until just recently, which was more so within the last 2 years. So that in itself is like, wait a minute. The second thing, man, isn't it funny how people just will bitch and bitch and bitch? Oh, WrestleMania is too long, and this is too long, and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, oh my God, they're only doing 3 hours? What the fuck is going on?
It's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just in that, in that aspect, that's just one. Number two, Dave Meltzer, once again, proves he's full of shit and he doesn't fucking have the right sources. Because you are absolutely right. That is the first thing that struck my mind. There is no motherfucking way that event gets done at 11 o'clock on the Eastern time. So that'd be 8 o'clock our time. And then you're able to get from the stadium across the strip, find parking, and get into the building by the time the Pacquiao match starts. Fuck that. It's bullshit. It's, you know what? And again, these assholes like to create fucking drama to sell their fucking, news fucking site and blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit. It's all made up. Guess what? Many times big events have happened at the same time. And I'll tell you right now that in the old days, yes, the wrestling fan and the boxing fan are the same person. Now, no fucking way.
Right.
And one of the things you hit on is the price of getting into a fucking boxing match. Number two, on top of that, so I'm reading it going, okay, that makes no sense trying to get to the boxing match. That was really strange.
Right, yeah.
I was thinking, if anything, it's people paying for the pay-per-view that want to see that match live. All right, that bout live for the Pacquiao, right? Yeah. And we all know that if you pay your $5 or $10 to Peacock, if you miss out on some of SummerSlam, you just fucking watch it tomorrow or watch it after the Pacquiao fight. Right. So it makes no sense to me. I think that this was essentially more so a call by the stadium itself, it seems, in terms of wanting it on Saturday for whatever reason. Maybe the idea is this. Saturday is in the middle of the weekend. Sunday is at the end of the weekend. How many people are going to be around at 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday when the event is ending? You know what I'm saying? But if you put it on Saturday, you're getting people who came in on Friday, and you're getting people who haven't left because it's not Sunday. It's Vegas booking 101. Stop with this nonsense about, competition and we can't have this big fight in this big event. Fuck it. There are going to be 60 to 70,000 people in that stadium, no problem. All right. And if it doesn't, well, guess what? Then Vegas never gets a WrestleMania. So there you go. It's a trial run for WrestleMania. Also, here's the other question. How many people are going to, if the main event is John Cena versus Roman Reigns? Well, guess what? Talk about fucking up your momentum with Roman being a heel. Because the people paying are going to go see Roman. They want to see him beat Cena's ass. So Cena's going to get booed and Roman's going to get cheered. So good fucking luck with any creative on this as well. So it's just a bunch of bullshit drama created by a bunch of men who make money off of other people. And in the end, it is just a bunch of high schoolers fucking making rumors up and trying to fucking pit things against each other so that their website can get more hits. That's it. Dave Meltzer, good night.
Since he seemed like he just locked it all there, but we got to get your comments. What do you think about this, man? When you hear about this story, I mean,
I'm just happy that I'm gonna be witnessing a 3-hour, possibly even under 3-hour SummerSlam live show.
Yeah,
that's what I'm happy for.
Right.
I mean, shit. I'll be the first one to say that I tear into long wrestling events. Impact, Michaels. We've all been in arenas for 7-hour plus WrestleManias.
Mm-hmm.
We all know how that.
I've never done a WrestleMania. Amazingly enough, I've never been to one past WrestleMania 21, and that event was no more than 3.5, 4 hours. So okay. I have not suffered that, and I don't want to be honest.
Well, there you go. So well, Impact, you know what starts happening around hour 4. You start to lose, any kind of energy that you have. You need a pick me up. You need something to get you re-energized. But the good thing is that with this, you're going to have a tight show. Even if they have an overrun, 3.5 hours, that's the exact length that a wrestling pay-per-view should be. A wrestling pay-per-view should not go any longer than 3.5, 4 hours. So I'm enthused, to say the very least, at this decision. And it makes all the sense in the world that it's happening on a Saturday, as Michaels had mentioned.
And also, again, I think I kind of pointed it out, but it really didn't take into consideration that, honestly, they're going to do their hour pre-show. They might even do a 2-hour pre-show.
Right. Yeah.
So what the fuck? What?
And the other thing to keep in mind, too, let's call it what it is. How many outside wrestling fans, WWE Universe members, are they going to have that are going to make Vegas the destination for the entire weekend at this point? Tons of people will descend upon Las Vegas, especially because this is going to be the first major WWE pay-per-view since we've all been, quarantined in our homes for a year plus. A lot of people really want to go.
Listen, so I've gotten a few chats already on my phone going, hey, I don't you Badboyz buy up all the tickets because I need to get some for me and my family, and these are people, of course, that live in Cali. But in other words, they're jokingly saying, hey, we're coming out there for the show now that we hear that this is coming. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be major. Very smart on them to do that. I didn't see that coming.
The other big point is, two things. One, the bigger point is you got to remember one thing. This is the first time that the stadium is going to have. This is a brand new fucking stadium still. So this is going to be its first big crowd. So you're going to get people who actually just are going to go out of the curiosity of, hey, I want to check out this stadium as well. The second factor in this, which is something that instead of, Dave Meltzer is a wrestling reporter. I use the word very loosely, reporter.
Yes, of course.
But his focus is on this story versus Pacquiao. Shouldn't his actual focus be on the fact that after the event is done, which will be somewhere around 8 p.m., by 9:30, 10 o'clock, you're able to get to GCW, who will obviously have something to do in town. They will be out here, there's no doubt. FSW, if they run Saturday night, or if they run Sunday, or if they run Friday, or if they run all day, all the verses, Big Valley, if they decide to do something. I mean, those are just local companies, and how many other promoters might bring something in for that weekend. So it's also giving you a chance as a fan to experience other independent shows.
Yeah.
And so that's what Meltzer should be focusing on is, hey, guess what? This is a great time to be a wrestling fan and come to Las Vegas, because it's going to be a fucking stacked weekend. But no, we got to talk about Pacquiao.
Also, keep in mind the hotels, with it being moved to a Saturday, then of course the lodging rate is going to be higher on a Saturday than on a Sunday. So
Absolutely.
that was another thing that I was going to mention as well. So
Yep.
yeah, it's gonna translate into a lot larger of a boost for our economy here in Las Vegas, with them moving it to a Saturday than on a Sunday.
And then you're getting that other side of the economic boost with the Pacquiao fight.
Exactly.
So it's bullshit. Again, it's bullshit like this that makes, you're just trying to get web hits because you're using Pacquiao's name and pitting against WWE and stuff. Hey, how about highlighting the fact that Las Vegas is about to have a really, really good fucking weekend after this shitty pandemic?
Yeah. And just to agree, when you happen to, there was only one comment that was made on this story, and that person put, AKA, we love Dave Meltzer's nuts. So since he said it, we must put it out as fact. He says, F Dave, that con man. I think he agrees with what you're saying, man.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's fascinating. It's just fascinating that this is the kind of shit that gets leaked, quote unquote.
Well, the question would have been, if this would have been a major AEW All Out event, how would he have phrased this if it was going against Manny? I wonder how that would have been the same way, or would have been looked at as a praise for them doing such an event and how successful it would be. And that's what I really wonder, how the story would have been phrased differently, because we know how Meltzer is when it comes to anything WWE versus AEW or any other, or like New Japan, which he's a big fan of too. So yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. The headline would have been, AEW makes a brilliant decision, forcing the Pacquiao fans to make a decision or something like that.
Or like the Tokyo Dome show, if that was in Vegas at the Allegiant Stadium, if that was that caliber of a show, it would be praised. It would be the greatest thing that ever happened, and it would have been looked at very positively. So I don't know.
Especially if it was the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in the main event, then it would have,
that would have been rated the #1 match before it even happened. So
really quick on that too. I just want to hit on something we kind of have talked a little bit about last week, and that is the AEW pay-per-view. And it's being reported that the gross intake was 6 million. That's the gross. The profit was about 3 million. That's not, that's not great. And the person who I saw wrote the article was trying to spin it as if that was really good, but that's not really good. So again, it brings up this question about, really honestly, in the new format that WWE has established with a network, and being only, $10 or $5 now for the network, is this where we're seeing pay-per-view headed? Now, I'm not talking about smaller pay-per-views, independents, okay? That's actually a good thing now with Fight TV and other, avenues to stream your pay-per-views as an independent. But for those like ROH, Impact, AEW, and to some extent New Japan has always had its own niche, so that's not really the thing. But eventually, are they going to basically have to try to establish, solely their own network to stream the shows, because of the fact that these profits, and that was not just the pay-per-view buy rate, that was including the gate and the merchandise sales.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's what was the alarming thing to me. So, and again, as much as we have fun fucking with AEW and giving Steve shit and stuff, the truth of the matter is that I don't want to see people that I know lose their jobs.
Exactly.
Sure.
So,
and Impact, they have, which is interesting, they have Impact Plus, which they run a lot of their shows and even their pay-per-view this week. What I don't understand why they don't run their bigger pay-per-views on their network. Why do they leave that to go jump over to like a fight network or whatever when they have a setup that's what's set up like WWE's network? So why not just have that whatever it costs, $10, and then run your pay-per-views on that? All of them. So I don't know.
Well, the thing that stands out for me with that is that WWE has, when they ran the network, they were playing a volume game. So they were just trying to cast as wide of a net as possible so that they could get as many subscribers as they can. That's what kept the network price at $10. I don't think that you're going to be able to have that same kind of a thing with Impact because, and I'm not meaning any offense by this, their viewer base is not even on, the same plane as what WWE is.
Right.
So they can't play the volume game. They have to get that $40 to $50 per, just like AEW.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. And the let's also be honest here. The true honest answer here is wrestling fans are probably one of the highest rates of piracy in all entertainment.
Oh yeah.
And no one wants to admit it, but as the especially if WWE sells to Disney or NBC, there is just going to be a total blanket, no matter if it's AEW or ROH, blah, blah, blah. Any site that streams shit is now going to be basically under a very watchful eye of a major conglomerate company, and they won't stand for that shit because if you could possibly get it on, a WWE pay-per-view on the same server that you can get an AEW or ROH, whatever, they're going to want to shut those fucking servers down. And it's already kind of started where they're going after some of the major pirate servers. So wrestling fans, it's so funny. We want to be so die hard and we're so into, why didn't they use this guy? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Yet they won't put out the $50 for a pay-per-view. So
yeah,
that's a great point.
Good stuff, guys. We knocked it out of the park again on a 3 count. Let's get our final thoughts for the week. I'm gonna start over with you, Sin City. What you want to tell the good folks out there?
Thank you guys for hanging out with us in the chat. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting up our website, vegasbadboyz.com. We really appreciate everything that you do, and we do the show for you. So thank you. Special shout out to all the brave men and women serving this country on lands both foreign and domestic. You enable us to be able to do this and everything that we do. So thank you. And last but not least, repsports.com, reppsports.com. Go there for all your pre-workout, weight loss, and energy drink needs. reppsports.com. Use promo code Vegas at checkout and save yourself 15%. Perfect.
Matt Michaels.
Hey, just want to bring attention to Get Well Tracy Williams. ROH is one half of the tag team champions. He was hit by a car this week. And his account was, firstly, I'll be okay. I got full on hit by a car yesterday crossing the street. Guy blew a red going 25 miles per hour. I flew for what felt like a full second, landing on my back. Just so unbelievably lucky and grateful that my dog, who was walking with me, was somehow not hit and she's okay. So I'd take the hit for her any day, and it could have been much worse. There are a lot of things about it that we're lucky in that weird way. Like, it's lucky that this asshole idiot driver hit a 32-year-old pro wrestler and not the old couple that was coming from the other side in front of me. Also, I know that the times I said I feel like I got hit by a car, I really wasn't that far off. Also annoying, it wasn't on camera because it must have looked insane.
Yeah.
So he's in good spirits, and that's great to hear. And
yeah,
he's a tough motherfucker too. So
absolutely. Good stuff, man. Thank you for that. Get well, Mr. Hot Sauce. Yeah. Thank you all for listening. We definitely appreciate that. We will we ask you to just continue to listen to all the different programmings we have going on. We still have the DeFalco Files, which comes on every Wednesday. You definitely want to start. If you haven't been listening, look, these shows are timeless, folks. Start back from the beginning. I know we're getting on episode 60, but you could go back to the first one to get caught up, and you still would just be amazed at a lot of the stories and everything that is told about this great organization that's based out here in Las Vegas. And again, these guys, they're, now that we've got news, they're going to start, hopefully prepping for something. They even have, I know, another big show around the corner that we'll be talking a little bit more about. So tune in Wednesdays, okay, with Joe DeFalco, Michael. Go ahead, man.
And this Wednesday, the guest will be Brandon Gatson.
Okay.
And on top of that, this Friday, you'll catch, if you tune in, our interview here on the Badboyz with Effie. We are supporting Effie as a sponsor for the appearance he's making at Big Valley Wrestling on June 26th. And it's going to be a charity show for the LGBTQ Club of Southern Nevada. It's a group that does great things for that community. It's just a really fun interview. Some good stuff on there. And if you, a lot of independent fans know who Effie is, but if you don't know his work, look him up and listen to the interview. You'll fall in love with the guy just listening to what he has to say. He's just a wonderful talent and a great guy.
Awesome. All right, guys, we said enough. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week. Until